Mr. Rohira is a veteran in the real estate industry and he has been instrumental in leading the development of premium commercial real estate for the company across India. Under his aegis, the company has pioneered the concepts of landmark business districts, premium residential and retail complexes, and he has established brand Mindspace, self-contained world-class business districts across India, uber luxury residential projects including Vivaria and Artesia in South Mumbai. He has been an integral part of the organization's foray into retail development and in shaping one of the prominent retail destinations in Orbit Malls. So, Mr. Rohira, over to you now.
Thank you very much for inviting me to do this. I hope I can make it useful for you on a Saturday afternoon. REITs as a subject really emerges only from the fact that you have to build on a particular market dynamic, on the base of a market, as well as create a mature environment of compliance and a very strong governance framework to actually build and establish on a REIT. So what's really important for all of us to understand is a little bit of the history behind where India has been in the last couple of decades and how is the REIT come into play is the culmination of that, and it's just a beginning in my view. So let me just give you a heads up. Commercial real estate in India was predominantly driven by CBD demand 2.5 decades ago. So traditionally you would see the Mahatma Gandhi Road, which was MG Road, become the CBD street for most of the big cities. So you had MG Road Bangalore, you would have MG Road Chennai. All of these places had commercial buildings that were built and they were sold to strata title owners who wanted to buy smaller offices and build on their domestic businesses. There was no real large global companies who were looking at commercial real estate, leave alone buy commercial real estate. 95% of commercial real estate was sold. And then you came in with the technology need that India started to slowly cater to, which was really at the low end of the services market, which was call centers and low-end services. This was 25 years ago. At that point in time, slowly Indian technology companies and some of the larger global service providers of BPO, etc., and call centers started looking at India. That's the time when these companies actually shifted gear to say we want to lease commercial real estate and we don't want to buy. And today, the way you see it is more than 500 million square feet of commercial real estate, which is grade A, is built across primarily 6 main markets. Between 85 and 90% of that is occupied by global companies. And 90% of that is really catering to the global technology services industry. All of these companies have leased the commercial real estate. So if I was to speak just of commercial real estate, in just a short span of 20 to 25 years, this is the staggering volume of commercial real estate that India has been able to deliver, primarily in Bombay, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai and NCR, taking away 90% of that contribution of supply. Another statistic you must know, that almost 300 million out of that is already institutionalized. When I say institutionalized, it's already acquired or owned by large institutional players or funds who have occupied and owned and are managing these assets. Globally, just to give you a heads up, REITs started getting listed in America way back in the early 60s. And you have more than 1.5 or 1.6 odd trillion dollars worth of REITs that are listed. And these REITs are not just commercial real estate, they're every kind of organized real estate, whether it is hotels, offices, residential, hospitals, schools, student housing, jails, etc., etc. So when you start looking at all of that and you say we have just 3 REITs listed in India, we must try and understand what it really means for us in India. Well, a REIT really is a real estate investment trust from the title of it, you must get to realize that it is a trust that looks after the interests of the fragmented shareholding in order to participate in the large pool of organized commercial real estate space. Because otherwise, traditionally, real estate can be an illiquid asset if you individually want to buy it. And your appetite will be driven by the capacity or the ability to purchase. And you may not be able to participate in the grade A office market space because the price, the value, and the units, etc., will be far larger than average investors would like to participate in, with the fear of being illiquid in the short term, not being able to manage leasing or exit the asset quickly. So what a REIT does primarily, it cumulatively forms an asset management trust where all of these prime assets that are predominantly leased to top companies, these asset managers manage these assets and distribute the rent that they earn as yield to shareholders, unit holders in this case. And over and above that, they participate in growth. And growth can be of three parts. One is the normal escalation of rent that takes place every year and every 3 years with leases which are between 9 and 15 years of contracts with these top companies. Two is the growth of new assets that you energize into the REIT, either by self-development potential that's there in the REIT or by acquiring other assets and infusing them. And three is every 10 years you see a major jump in the rental cycle, because we must remember that India is a developing economy, will continue to be a developing economy, and all of these large gated communities, an image of that you can see in my background, are actually oases of ecosystems that we have to create, which actually look after a very high level of infrastructure and environment for the workplace that these clients are looking for. Mind you, in India, you don't get this kind of infrastructure everywhere. We are all aware of the struggle we have with water supply, with drainage systems, with electricity in most parts of India. But when you enter any of these parks, you are expected to provide all of those and more as the base starting point to ensure that these global companies can perform seamlessly for their global clients. And which is why these assets are far more resilient and far more robust in their infrastructure and their play in terms of their offerings. What has also happened is, as India progressed scientifically upwards by upping their game in terms of providing for technology services, no longer are those days where someone in New York ordered for a McDonald's burger and the call rang somewhere in Bombay or Pune servicing him for that burger delivery. India is actually at the forefront of cutting-edge technology support services. And with digitization taking place at such a fast pace, India has actually been able to be at the forefront of that. And that is what India will continue to see far more amount of growth and resilience in that sector, purely because we have a massive intellectual capital pool of young graduates and students and workforce that has actually got groomed by these top companies. If you go back 10 to 12 years in the economic crisis, you see what happened globally. Companies melted down, and you thought that the global economic world, the way we saw it, would completely crash and wipe out. In fact, a few years from there, we saw the highest growth that commercial real estate actually saw in the form of large technology companies no longer doing third-party outsourcing, actually wanting to put their own flags into India as GCCs and GICs, setting up their own centers in India to cater to a very, very, very sophisticated workforce with a far greater intellectual capital, expertise and groom and training to build them as their global workforce. And if you saw SEZs, which came up at that point in time, in the 10 years, SEZs alone employed more than 18 lakh technology graduates to come and work in those parks. So you can imagine the scale at which these companies have grown And exactly the reason why we are seeing even now, while all of us are working from home and trying to figure out the footprint and the amount of workforce that will come back to the office, etc., when we are watching it globally, you will actually see, if you start watching their revenues and you start watching their employment numbers, you will realize that they have seen crazy amounts of growth in the last 12 to 18 months. And that growth has got translated with huge numbers in terms of revenue and employment. And we know that these companies are working on three primary principles. One is a massive amount of protection towards data security. The other is doing cutting edge technology, front end work. You need to engage with the best talent and you need to provide them with the best infrastructure. And thirdly, your customer who's sitting in any corner of the world is far more anxious today and is waiting for the best level of supply that you can provide of services and infrastructure. When you start looking at all of that, you have to cater to a far different offering of the workplace. You must remember that 80% of the workforce in India is millennial in the technology footprint. And when you have the millennials come to work, they want a very different experience. They want excitement at the workplace. They want great open spaces. They want recreation spaces. They want all the fancy restaurants, food, the recreation, the sports, etc. So these are more like large college campuses and great infrastructure campuses, not just office spaces. And when you combine all of these things together and you see all of the other employees who are actually migrating from tier 2 and tier 3 cities to make a life and enjoy the social infrastructure in these big cities, you realize that it's a matter of time that they will all get back to the workplace. Coming back to the REIT, we were the second REIT to get listed in India, and then we had Brookfield post that. I think we're still taking infancy steps in India on the REIT, and you will see many more REITs to come. The fundamental of a REIT really is three things. One is you have to be extremely compliant and extremely focused on your governance and compliance mechanism. Number two, you have to take care of your debt very carefully, because mind you, 95% plus of what you earn as net operating income, you distribute as dividend. And when you're distributing it as dividend, you have no free cash flow left. So you have to be very careful about the level of debt you take, which can give you opportunity to grow. And when you can earn and manage and build assets like these, you will see the growth, because you have seen supply shrink out dramatically now, because nobody is building speculative supply anymore. With that, when you have grade A supply and you're managing your assets far more efficiently, the top customers will first come to you because they don't want to take a risk, especially in a COVID and a post-COVID world, where you want a lot of focus on governance, compliance, health and safety protocols, energizing the workplace, etc. So when you look at organized asset managers and you look at portfolios like ours or many others who are handling 20 and 30 and 40 million square feet and making sure they take care of that universe of top customers in the technology footprint, looking after their needs and engaging with their employees and making sure the workplaces are far more exciting than they ever imagined, you have a winner when it comes to listing of the REIT. So all of us as investors can now participate in the fractional ownership. We can now buy units and sell units. We can partake of the growth. At the same time, being a REIT, you have a unique advantage that if you're distributing your yield in the form of dividend, that entire dividend is tax-free in the hands of the unit holder. So what that does is, on an average, if we distributed 7% yield last year, in the worst year in many years that we may have all seen, we distributed a 7% yield. 93% of that was in the form of dividend. So 93% of what you earned as yield was completely tax-free. Now, these are game-changing things which are coming forward for investors who are looking at REITs as an investment class, where they are far more mature investors who want to partake in commercial real estate and real estate as a play, who want a yield and want growth. So that's really where a REIT is a perfect opportunity for investment. And that's what you will see more and more take place when you get resilient owners of commercial real estate who have a track record, governance track record, a very balanced debt book, and are able to distribute a large chunk of their revenues as tax-free dividend to their investors, you will see a huge amount of investor potential attention into the REIT. And we are seeing that when we listed our REIT in August, a lot of people would have wondered why did they choose that timing and why would they want to go into a REIT at this point in time, and what was really the dynamic behind it. Well, there were three fundamentals again. One was that we had the best footprint of clients. We were able to collect upwards of 99% of rents, even in the worst phase, where physically the occupancy was less than 10%. And thirdly, global investors realized and knew that India is going to have a very different footprint of commercial real estate demand, and the profile of companies are actually catering to the globe. And when you're catering to the global markets, at that point in time, you're completely aware that these are customers who are going to continue to want to be within these spaces and grow. And we saw more than 15 times oversubscription. The heartening thing that we also saw was that there was a massive interest in the private high net worth individuals from domestic markets who were very excited to participate in the REIT, which we didn't see in the first REIT. We clearly saw it in the second and the third REIT, which is a very, very positive move going forward, because we are seeing an opportunity where the domestic investors getting excited about the instrument of REITs. With this, I'll come to a close and I'll open it up to question and answers. And please, in case I've missed out on anything that you specifically want us to cover, more than happy to take care of that.
Mr. Rohira, one question that has come to us again and again is, there is a new investment opportunity, which is fractional investments. And then there is REITs. So what is the difference between the two?
See, strata title ownership in commercial real estate is what you only had as an opportunity earlier. So you went and you, for example, if you had 50 lakhs or 1 crore or 5 crores or 10 crores, you accordingly chose to buy a fractional ownership of an asset, which was say 5,000 square feet in a building or 10,000 square feet in a building or a floor in a building, etc. What that does is 3-4 things are going on. You buy the asset thinking that you bought it and it's leased and the client's going to be there forever and he's going to keep paying rent and the asset is going to keep juicing out. What we forget very clearly is that the asset's aging, the profile of your customer is changing, the demographics around your real estate are changing, infrastructure is constantly changing. So you may be in an obsolete location 10 years from today if you've not got in the right side of infrastructure. So take a classic case of Nariman Point for Mumbai. It was the best place for CBD. It was fractional ownership, strata title offices. Today you see it primarily isolated and far cheaper in terms of rental than many other new localities that have got built because of the push of infrastructure and the profile of infrastructure and the quality of assets that have got built. So when you are a fractional owner, if a tenant walks away, you are in no control of upgrading the asset. You are in no control of what your customer is looking for, really, and he has changed and he has evolved. Simple things like health and safety protocols. Now, if you have 20 owners or 40 owners in a building, to get eye to eye, sit down together and say, okay, let's upgrade the building, let's upgrade the facade, let's upgrade the lobbies, let's create touchless elevators, let's create sanitization protocols. You just can't do it. The client walks away by the time you evolve. Now change that to a REIT investment. We as asset managers are looking after all of that because we're completely engaged with the customer. We own the asset. We are not dependent on approvals from anyone else to do what we feel is right for the asset. And that is what enhances value. And in this case, you can liquidify your asset overnight by exiting out from the stock exchanges while you've still participated in the growth. So that's the real fundamental difference. And there are many more reasons. It's not that all strata real estate is bad. Yeah.
Is fractional investment regulated by certain agencies like REITs are by SEBI?
No, it's not. It's not. Very pertinent question that you raised. And the dividend that you earn also is not tax efficient. Mind you, if you bought it in an SPV, then you can't even distribute dividend because you'll pay 2 layers of massive amounts of tax. Your individual, you'll pay the individual levels of tax. So you're not able to control the quality of asset. You're not able to control your tenant. And at the same time, it's not tax efficient. And it's aging as an asset and you're not able to individually upgrade your assets. So there are a lot of drawbacks in that, which is why REITs actually globally have been really successful. And that's exactly what you will see in India going forward.
Okay, fantastic. Another question that comes to us is, do you think there is adequate opportunity for REITs in other asset classes? Because till now we have seen only in commercial. What about industrial, warehousing, retail? Are we going to see REITs there anytime soon?
You will certainly see REITs in all of these classes. Of course, it's a matter of, see, that a REIT is a combination of two things. One is distributable dividend, and the other is the cumulative total return. So it starts with the distributable dividend. And for that, you must have adequate yields that can attract customers. Otherwise, you may not get the right value, which may not encourage you to go and list it. So it has to be a win-win for both parties. And as you reach that threshold in the marketplace, you'll certainly see more REITs in all of these aspects coming.
Another one point one of our speakers earlier had raised was that, for REIT, the challenge could be the quality and execution of projects, which could lead to stocks later on, or something, challenging. What's your view on that?
In fact, there is minimal risk in a REIT because as part of the legislative environment of the REIT, you must remember 80% have to be rent earning and completed assets within the REIT. You only have a 20% development play permitted, which means your risk is greatly marginalized. So you do not carry speculative risk at all that the project may not come, it will not get built and it will get delayed, etc. Having said that, if I have to distribute between 90 and 100% of what I have as free cash flow, I don't have room for speculation and misplaying the marketplace. Let's assume I was not going to distribute the dividend. Then I could use the money and say, okay, let me buy land in Timbuktu, and then I'm going to build a building 2 years later. And if that mistake pans out badly for the REIT, then the investor suffers. In this case, the cash flow has to be distributed. So I have to be only debt efficient to ensure that I can buy a new asset without disturbing the distributable yield, or raise more equity. When I have to raise more equity, means I have to go back to the marketplace again and again. If I have to go back to the marketplace again and again, I will ensure that I'm making sure my investors are happy with me and I've delivered to promise. Otherwise, I'll never be able to raise equity again. So all of these kind of ring fence the safety of the investor in a REIT portfolio.
And what has been your experience in past 15, 16 months? Has pandemic been a challenge for investors while they were considering investing in real estate? Although we have seen, high level of PE investments, etc. But has it been a challenging environment for investors?
So investors are always vary because obviously you have different categories of investors. So the large global institutional investors have a certain mindset around what they see will pan out. And you're seeing different things pan out across the world. And you're seeing in the Americas, etc., everyone's getting back to the workplace. And you will see with aggressive vaccinations in India, all of that will start to happen maybe a couple of quarters from today. But obviously the smaller investors or the fragmented investors are still wary of what's going on. They don't have adequate information or knowledge. And more of that knowledge database that's spreading into the marketplace is helping investors take an informed choice. And which is why you're seeing more and more interest now gaining towards the REITs. So I think once we've cleared a little bit of this fog, which is probably in the next few quarters, there will be a very different rhetoric on REITs in India.
Okay, so fantastic. Last question, what is your outlook for REITs? Because the situation is so fluid, so let's not go too far beyond, but maybe next year or two, how do you see for the REITs in India?
So we see a phenomenal opportunity for organized players. We see a huge amount of overhang of supply just evaporating. We've seen cost of capital come down. And we've seen our customers' revenue spiking up and employment numbers going up. When you add up all of these things, real estate consumption is not far away. Grade A real estate will have a lion's share of demand coming back to them. And when that happens, you will see a very limited supply of grade A in the marketplace compared to the macro supply. Customers will not go to grade B and grade C supply. So you will see a mismatch of rental numbers between grade A and other graded assets. And you will see a lot more activity the minute you've seen aggressive vaccinations in urban India, where the workforce is predominantly vaccinated. So we stand really bullish going forward because we know technology companies are growing and their footprint is going to grow in India. We have to just wait and be prepared and get ready with the upgrades and with the parks that will attract these new talent to come into the workplace.
Okay, fantastic. So it's just a matter of time where, once we get back to our, normal or new normal, as everyone is saying, I think we will be back on track. So thank you so much. I think it was a very informative session, answered a lot of queries from our audience and viewers that we received. And thank you, Mr. Vinod Rohira, for being here, sharing your time, sharing your views on that, and giving us a brief on what we can expect in this new asset class of REITs. Thank you so much.